Good afternoon, almost evening to everybody. Today is our Advanced PortGen Government Contracting. It's the beginning of a 5-part series, and today we are going to cover government contracting basics and some of the things that we want you to walk away with tonight. I'm Lisa Lagerstrom, the Training and Development Specialist for Apex Accelerator. Apex is really excited for this opportunity to share the important pieces that we feel everybody needs to know to start with government contracting. Tiffany Stroggs, our program director, is with us today as well. She's going to be our moderator, and we're going to switch off throughout the session. So to get started, let's talk about session logistics. We always have to have that, don't we? So how this is going to roll, the presentation and the recording. The presentation was sent yesterday to you, and the recording will be available, and this is the hot link for it to get into it through the Port of Seattle. And how to ask questions. How we're going to do that is the chat is going to be open to you to talk directly to folks, not everybody. So if you want a question to be answered, please give that to Tiffany or myself, and we will compile those and answer them at the end. We are going to have a little bio break about 4 o'clock. Keep us on track if we keep going, and raise your hand, say, hey. And then post-session, what we expect is that there's a post-survey. We always like to hear how a session was for you, what we could do better, improve, what you liked, how are you going to use it. And then to prepare for session 2, if you've chosen to go to session 2, we would like you to know your NAICS codes. And this right here is a hyperlink to find out what NAICS codes you are. So in preparation, as mentioned, if you choose to go to the next class, that is how we would like you to prepare. So let's get started. We have Mr. Mian Rice with us today, and he is going to kick off the Advanced PortGen. Mian, take it away.
All right. I think after all these years, I learned how to take myself off of mute, so I apologize for that one. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mian Rice. I am the Director of Diversity and Contracting Department for the Port of Seattle. And before I go into my little small monologue, because I was told to speak short and be quick about my little presentation here, I wanted to say a big thank you to Washington Apex Accelerator, Tiffany Stroggs and Lisa Lagerstrom, just been awesome partners, along with SBDC and even OMWE. It's just been a wonderful partnership throughout the years, and it's just really cool to keep the needle running to support a lot of our women, minority, and disadvantaged businesses out there and small businesses alike. So thank you from the bottom of my heart in this regards. This is really cool. For those of you guys that are kind of interested in what PortGen means, PortGen is a short for Port of Seattle Small Business Generator. So that's what PortGen was, just an abbreviation of that. So anyway, more to come on that one. Here we go for our advanced PortGen kickoff. And here we go. Next slide, please. So I think a lot of you have already know a little bit about Port of Seattle as already, but I did want to make sure that cement in this presentation, the port as a whole has I feel that we have a fairly significant economic impact throughout the region. We are, and I'm not going to read every single one of these, but we are, as an economic generator, one of the big things that I'm really proud of is which, as we continue to build our airports and our maritime industry from a trading perspective, we bring in a lot of port activities and jobs throughout the region, as well as something big that I think continues to grow is our capital improvement program, which, it says 3.7 billion. It's actually, I have a feeling it's going to, it probably is more 4.5 bill throughout as we continue to move throughout the year. So with that, those green spots down in the bottom is all those specific areas and where the port has touched and operates, owns, or partners with down in the highlighted green areas under the map. So just as a touch point there for you. Next slide, please. Now, as part of the Port of Seattle, we have for the most part, three major operating divisions: aviation, maritime, and economic development. But from an aviation perspective, as I brought out earlier, SeaTac Airport or Sea Airport, SEA, as you see on your bag tags, we're the 10th most connected international hub in the United States. And I think we're actually moving up in the terms of ranking. However, I see the 36.2 million annual passengers in 2021. I think that as of 2022 and 2023, we're close. We're close. We're close to 50 million passengers. So that just tells you the significance of an origin and destination airport that's just continuing to grow, and a lot of work to support the growth of all the folks that are coming into the Washington and much Western Washington metropolitan area. So this is really cool. Maritime, we have a maritime fishing terminal. We have our fishing vessels at the port facilities, which produces about 13%, a little bit more of the U.S. commercial fishing areas, as well as, cruise ship passengers come in and bring about 1 million passengers each year. That definitely does a nice little influx to our economy, especially within a Seattle metropolitan region itself. And then lastly, economic development and community partnerships. And I just kind of mentioned that already with a lot of the partners out there, not just the ones that we're working with today, but also other partners from tourism, marketing. We have other support programs. We lease of office and retail. If you guys are looking for office space, come to the Port of Seattle and we may be able to hook you up with something. Industrial, maritime. So we have a lot of things out here to support you and the growth of the industry. And if you have a business and you're looking to expand and you want something, think about us, because we're here to support you. Next slide, please. Now, as part of this growing economy, growing capital program, Port of Seattle is just continuing to build, but a lot of our commissioners and a lot of our staff and executive leadership team really wants to make sure that there's true equity in terms of all the money's coming in, that a lot of it goes to our small businesses, especially women, minority, and disadvantaged business firms out there. We have some 5-year benchmarks. Basically, as you can see, we're trying to increase up to 15% the amount spent on women minority contracts within the 5 years. Years ago, back in 2016 or so, 2017, 2016, 2017, we were only doing 5.3%. I think that's conservative. We're now today, over the years, we have now up to about 12 to 13% utilization with minority businesses. So that's just percentages. But me as an engineer, you can mess with percentages. I like to also see numbers. So we're trying to triple the number of women firms doing business with us. And our goal is 354 businesses and we hit the reset button every year. So our goal every year, we hit the reset button and we try to achieve the percentages, but also the goal for utilizing minority businesses out there. Our goal is 354 businesses annually. We're about to hit that goal, actually. I think this year we're at right now, I think we're about 346 businesses thus far. So hopefully by the end of the year, we would crush our original goal that we had established a number of years ago. So it is a wonderful effort. We're great baseline policies. We have a lot of support here with Washington APEC Accelerator and all these other partners out there. I'd encourage you to continue to look at the Port of Seattle and other jurisdictions as well for these opportunities, because we're booming out here, and it'd be great to continue to make sure that you're a part of that boom. I'm going to hand the baton over to Emily, because there are some other outreach events and things like that I think you should know about. So Emily, the ball is yours.
Thanks, Mian. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Ho. I work for Mian in the diversity and contracting team at the Port of Seattle. My role is as the community engagement and training program manager. And I've been very lucky to be able to work with Lisa very closely and Tiffany as well to be able to put this program on for you. This slide is to provide a little bit of context of what kind of training and outreach we have here and where the advanced PortGen fits in. We're here today because this program is to empower you with what you need to obtain your very first government contract, to get on your first government work. We have other programs, just our PortGen, that top line there, that are more port specific. So if you're very interested in knowing just like more about the port, how do we work here? What are the specific opportunities coming up? Being able to meet our prime businesses at networking events. We have, that's a big part of our training and outreach program as well. And then, so that's kind of our baseline, kind of most basic part. Advanced PortGen, sometimes I call it 201, and then our accelerator program is our 301. This is a selective program that's for 10 weeks. It's going to start actually this week for our incoming cohort. I saw some of our graduate cohort on here, as well as somebody from our incoming cohort on here tonight. So that's really exciting. But this one, I would highly recommend you to be on the lookout for it. When we are accepting applications again come around next year. This one, because it's more exclusive, it takes a lot more time, and you also get the added benefit of being matched with a mentor who you meet one-on-one with. And so I just want to put a pin in it for everybody. Once you've, feel like you've got what you need from the advanced PortGen, and actually are ready to scale up your business and get even more work with government contracting, I would highly encourage you to be on the lookout for our accelerator program. Next slide. And then this one is just to help provide a little bit more context of the port procurement process, and how we put things into different categories. I know Lisa is going to touch on this somewhat later on, especially with the different kind of language that we use. This is one good example of it, because the port buys three main categories of things. There's construction, there is consulting, and there's purchasing. But under each one of them, you can see those quotes like also known as construction is also known as public works. Consulting is, we also sometimes call it service agreements. And then purchasing is goods and services, which can also get confusing because there's services in both of those two little rectangles. And so it's important to know which one you fall into, so that you even know what to be paying attention to, or what is it that is the requirements for each of these. So yeah, just kind of setting it up for Lisa to show kind of how important understanding some of these things are, and how tricky sometimes it can be. And that's why we're here, and that's why Lisa and I are here to help walk you through it. So that's it for me for now.
Thank you so much, Emily. You really teed it up for us, because we are going to talk about the R&R in government contracting, which are the requirements and resources. Thank you both, Mian and Emily, for kicking us off. This is really, we're going to focus on the requirements and how to get resources to be successful with government contracting. Each session, as mentioned, in the future is going to approach or talk about a specific topic. So I want to let you all know, we're going to talk about government contracting generally today. And then next week, we're going to do business development, which is going to have the Port of Seattle folks talking about service agreements and how they're evaluated. They're different than what we're going to talk about today. Interesting, different. And then session 3, we're going to talk about prevailing wage. For anybody out there that is doing public works, prevailing wage is a part of it. And we have a compliance specialist that's going to join us and talk through all of the things you need to know about prevailing wage. The 4th session is going to be about bonding and insurance requirements. So an R of our R&R. And then our last session that's going to be virtual is the financial considerations. What do you need to know financially to get into government contracting? It takes a bit for understanding what it's going to be as a business owner getting into contracts. So we are going to give you a view, and we're going to use a live solicitation. It is the glass and glazing that the port has done. It is closed. It has been awarded, and we're going to explore that a bit. So let's get started. Emily also talked about language. So the language of government. It is a foreign language. And the important part about it is you understand it's rich with acronyms. I mean, rich with acronyms. One of the tips that I was given when I first started as a PTAC counselor or Apex advisor was to write down all the acronyms when you're listening to somebody speak, just so you have them down, because people talk very fluently with their acronyms and you're lost. So one of the tips, definitely make an acronym list. Another one, understand from agency to agencies, there's different dialects. Interesting enough. Some people call it plan holders. We're going to talk about what's a plan holder. Well, that's Port of Seattle's name for something. So know that writing it down, asking clarifying questions is going to help you with this new language. All right. And it takes practice to be fluent. Wow, practice. Well, I do encourage you to talk and ask questions and then practice what you've heard. Ask more questions. And I'm going to give you a tip. Well, I've already said it now 3 times, I think. Ask questions for clarity. The other one is connect with your resources to learn this language. Apex is one of many resources, and we are going to explore resources as well. So remember, the R&R, requirements and resources. That's what we're going to do today. So our commitment is to not do this to you today. Information overload. Now, we all have experienced overload and information overload for sure. So I'm going to share my experience when I first started in 2018 with PTAC, and it was a new language. I did not come from government. I came from another industry, and I absolutely couldn't believe how rich in acronyms it was. So when I said, how am I going to start? I started to write down acronyms like I mentioned. And today really is about getting what you need and understanding your resources, how to be successful for securing that first contract with the port. That is what Advanced PortGen is. This is going to be, for some of you, okay, got it. I'm good. I understand what she's saying. I'm doing my very best not to do acronym rich words. So please ask questions, because this is not what I want you to feel like at the end of the session. It's 2 hours. So let's get started. Emily had mentioned there were 3 categories that the port buys. That's construction, public works, and we're going to explore one of those today. Consulting, service agreements, we're going to explore one of those in session 2. And then that third one, purchasing or goods and services, we didn't pick that, but it's going to apply for the concepts we share today are going to apply for all 3 in a sense. How to build a relationship, how to do research, how to find out more about the agencies. And when you registered, you were given a link to watch the recording of PortGen 101. And this slide deck has this link, and you can, after you're done today, if you go, I want to learn some more, I missed this, I didn't prepare before this class, please do. We encourage you to do that. So number 1 requirement is procurement portals. Many agencies have procurement portals, and those are the platform that they use to manage all the activities, bid opportunities, and it's a central hub where buyers and suppliers can interact. So why register and why create a profile? Well, you want to understand what that agency is buying. So you have to be in a portal to get notifications. And many agencies have a portal where you can be a guest. You can just, jump in and get some information, but not until you have a portal profile will you get more information. And one thing I want you all to write down is in Vendor Connect, which we're going to talk about. It is the Port of Seattle's portal. You being a plan holder makes a difference. If you're not a plan holder, you're not going to see all the information. So we encourage you, and we will talk about how to build a profile for Vendor Connect and be able to utilize and optimize everything within. And Emily is here till the very end, and she can answer some questions. And if we don't answer a question, we will make sure to get you the answer as a follow-up. So know today, ask any questions. And if you've stumped us, we'll get it back to you. So why have a profile? So you can be visible by agencies. And agencies are going out there to find people. I mean, that's what they do. And to convey your capabilities, Apex helps firms create a capability statement. Well, it's always a good place to start. What is your firm capable of doing? Being able to convey that, may it be an elevator pitch, may that be through capability statements or a strong portal profile. This is all business relationship. I mean, you're out there saying, here's my firm, this is what I do, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. So take the time to learn about your agency portal, as well as your agency as a whole. We're going to have some slides up here that show many things that the port does that not all agencies do. So it's a differentiator. What is the port doing that others aren't? Well, that would intrigue me if I was a firm. And also, as you do market research to find out, is the port buying what I'm selling? You're going to find some more things that they do, which is awesome. So let's talk about it. We're not going that way, we're going this way. Okay, so procurement portals, we're going to feature Vendor Connect. We're going to also acknowledge that the state has a main portal and the federal government has a main portal. The one that's right here that says local, there are a number of agencies, counties, cities, a lot of different agencies that have portals that act differently. Like the city of Tacoma does it different than Skagit County. They absolutely do. They have different portals. So when we work with firms, when Apex works with a firm, we first find out who's buying what they're selling, and we say, let's get into their portal. Let's go look at some stuff. The consistency that I'm going to show you today is the state. The state has one place, federal has one place. So just be aware. I'm going to give you the next slide that is how to prep. No matter what portal you're going into, there are some things to be aware of. And preparation is quite important because you want to have a portal that is complete, or excuse me, a profile that's complete. So as you researched and you found that an agency is buying what you're selling, you want to get ready to go into their portal. Now, there are some codes, and yes, some of these are acronym rich. And the NAICS code is North American Industry Classification System. The NAICS code is used as it's a federal indicator, it's a category within federal, but the port uses it and others use it, not always. So it's a universal way of identifying what categories, what goods and services you are selling or what you perform. At the state level, there's a commodity code, which is also an NIGB code, which is a National Institute of Government Procurement, I believe. I think if you knew these three, you are ahead of the game of most people that are getting ready to go into government contracting. So hint, please understand who your NAICS codes and who you want to sell to see what codes they use. Talking about capability narrative. If you went into Vendor Connect you may find that they ask you, is there a capability narrative section? Maybe there isn't. So be prepared when you go into your portals, what they're going to ask. The reason this green one is the color it is, it's really one of the most universal things that is needed for building your profile. A good set of keywords for the agency to search and find you is important. One of the assignments most PTAC advisors give to a firm if they want to get into government contracting is give me a good solid list of keywords, and we'll work those and we'll see which ones are popular in the portals they want to get into. And then, can you upload additional documents? It's always important. If they are asking for licenses, you have that ready to send or upload, certifications or capability statements. So prep for your portals. All right, here we are. Here is Vendor Connect. I'm sure a number of you, actually, I asked in a pre-survey. In the pre-survey, 61 of you responded, and I asked how many people are in Vendor Connect. 39 said they weren't, and 22 said they were. So maybe that's a homework assignment, that you look at Vendor Connect and get into it. After today, I hope that you all are going to be able to put a profile together. And let's just give you, this is a hot link. You can get in right there. And there's 8,854 vendors registered. That's a massive amount of folks. And in this, you are going to have some really important tabs. It's giving you current and post solicitations, what's future coming up. This one here, the search publicly view vendors. Wow, that's giving you a whole list of everybody that's in that system. That is opportunity to have relationships built with folks. And then events calendar. This is the homepage for Vendor Connect. I had mentioned that Vendor Connect, there's a search. So if Emily, well, actually, I mean, Emily's not buying, she supports all the buying in diversity and contracting. But if a vendor was, and let's say I'm looking for a drywaller, I would go into Vendor Connect and I would look through this and I would look at keywords. Notice that. That's the work types. And then if they had any business certifications, and if it's asterisk, it means they have self-identified. And then over here, look, North American Industry Classification System. We already talked about that, right? That the port uses NAICS codes. So they would do that. It's nice and it's exportable into Excel. So I just wanted you to know that this is a good tool if you wanted to know who else are vendors in Vendor Connect. And that's your profile, how it exists. So buyers are seeing all this, or let's say you didn't fill it out. You forgot to fill it out. That shows something about your firm, that you are not finishing your profile. So I had mentioned that when you're in a portal and you start to understand your agency, it's quite important to understand all the other things they do. And the Port of Seattle, by far, has a very committed focus on diversity and contracting, which is awesome. Types of contracts and some other things that they can find right with easy links. I wanted to put the slide in just to show the depth in which you can learn. So if you gave yourself a few hours just to learn about these, you're going to be way better off than just going, oh yeah, I guess there's this Vendor Connect thing. So really dig in to find what your agencies are doing to support you. And this is just another view, giving you more options. Here it is, a quick link. Just view your current bid ops and register for your business. These right here, and this is the one I want to point out the most. Sign up for our mailing list. Okay, you're going to learn a lot. I just started working with the port this year on this project. It was not my regional focus. I worked in Snohomish, so the Port of Everett was my port that I supported. And I can't tell you how much I've learned in just the short period of time with just cruising around on their website and then being a part of their mailing list. I've gone to a number of different events and met some really incredible vendors and had great conversations with their jock contractors and The resource fair that we're going to have at the end of this, October 17th, is going to have some folks that are going to support your business. And that's only because I got on the mailing list, I attended some networking events and learned a lot about the port. So I encourage you to do so. The last thing I want to talk about right here on the port is the newsletter. This is a hyperlink, and this is, Emily, is it twice a month that it comes out? I think
it's weekly.
Weekly, okay, so it's weekly. And this is giving you heads up on many things. And again, that's how I find out of events that are coming up. Oh, I thought I was all done, but here we go, another great resource. So we talked about requirements, get into the portals, and a resource. And within the port website, look at this, our resource, it's a guide. Often we work with firms that are struggling with how to navigate, and the port has put this together. Not all agencies put things like this out there to be helpful. So that was another key indicator to me that the port is making sure that there isn't frustration, which exists in government contracting. I think somebody did say frustrating when I said, what is government contracting? So know that the port is doing a fabulous job in getting the information to you. And if they didn't, I guess we go back to that tip, ask questions for clarity. So I'm going to go back to that tip a few times. And then who do you talk to? Well, we have Emily on the line, and she's going to be available to us. So know your people, know the people in the agencies that can help you out. All right. Now we talked about requirements and we talked about Vendor Connect. Let's take just a quick look at our state procurement portal. For the folks that are in the audience that are new to government contracting, one of the areas that I want to talk about is we have statewide contracts, and we have contracts for goods and services throughout, and WEBS is where you go. WEBS has 8,703 vendors as of a few days ago. This right here is your hyperlink, and if you're curious who is out there selling to the state, there's a place after you create your profile that you can get this information. Back to if you're a guest and you're just cruising around, I don't even think you can be a guest in WEBS. I think you have to have a profile. So to get this far. And again, keywords, very important when you get into portals. And they don't use NAICS codes, they use commodity codes, different. And then some other questions are asked of you to get a filtered report. This downloads into Excel, it's quite nice. The resource for WEBS, they have training every third Thursday of the month. They have an hour training, how to get into WEBS, how to find upcoming opportunities, how to then get technical assistance, and what are some additional training pieces. One of the most commonly asked questions that firms ask of Apex accelerators is, where do I find bid opportunities? Well, in this portal, you're going to find bid opportunities. And if you have a profile with a commodity code that matches, you're going to get a notification that there's an opportunity. So being in Vendor Connect for the ports, being a plan holder, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, or being in WEBS and having a complete profile and commodity codes, you're going to get notification. See a trend, have a profile, get the right codes, get notifications, find bid opportunities. That's how you start. And I want to make sure at the end of the session you go, okay, I get it. I got to be in the agency's profile. It has to be complete. And then I'll start getting opportunities. And I wanted to show you one more piece that the port or the state does. They have a newsletter. And again, you're going to learn more about this than if you don't subscribe, you're not going to know about some opportunities or policy changes or upcoming contracts. So it is really a nice piece to be on their mailing list. So we got the port, we got WEBS, which is our state. And I want to take a real brief view of federal government. And some of you might see this and go, oh, I've been in that. I've been in the system for award management. SAM, it's painful. I think somebody said painful. Wait, let me write this down. Oh, complex and fun. Those are the two I like. So system for award management. SAM, this is the federal procurement system. Going into SAM, if you're doing it correctly, you're reading all the things. It could take you 3 to 4 hours to get through. But the piece is, if you're going through SAM, you're spending all that time and you absolutely miss this thing called the dynamic small business search, or it's called the SBA supplemental page, or it's called the SBA profile. Notice I said 3 things that mean the same thing. So language is really important. And when I say you're in SAM, you're filling it all out, and you come to this page, it doesn't look like this. I didn't give you the right screenshot, but you come to a page and it says, okay, please complete your SBA supplemental page. And if you're somebody that says, I'm done, I don't want to read anymore, and you continue on with your SAM registration, you hit submit, you don't have a complete profile. You completely missed this page. That is probably the biggest bummer that I saw as an advisor, is many folks get into a portal. They don't understand all the pieces of the portal. They didn't prepare properly for getting into the portal and completing everything. Apex accelerators help you prepare. If you can remember that, getting into portals are important. Completing your profile is important, because you're reflecting, I didn't pay attention. I didn't properly read all screens and instructions, which is essential. Then you typically, and contracting officers will say to us, if we have 100 to look at, we're not even going to look at the people that have incomplete records. I mean, that's just a simple thing. Of course, they're out. If there are only 2, they'll probably look at both of you, one with an incomplete, one with a complete. But know that your chances decrease to be seen by somebody. That's the first step, just being seen. So I wanted to say, in federal government, it's SAM. And with SAM, you have the dynamic small business search. They're connected. Make sure you have a complete dynamic small business search record, or DSBS. All right. And then I'm going to give you an overview. I get kind of passionate. I can hear my voice going up even. So procurement portal recap. Ask yourself why you are creating a profile. Often firms would come in and say, I was told I have to get into webs. I'd say, okay, tell me why. And that would open a conversation. Maybe they weren't ready for webs yet, but somebody said to do it. More often than not, people say, I was told to get into SAM. I don't know how to start. We are the help desk for getting into SAM. When you read about it, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, we do help with SAM registrations and understanding what you're getting into and making sure that you're building the best profile possible in the dynamic small business search. So prepare yourself with all the needed information prior to registering. Complete it. Spend time learning the functionality and features of the agency that you're trying to sell to. It's a big part of getting to know their culture as well. And don't overload yourself with too many portals. One portal at a time. That's my bit of advice. So this was a segment called Requirements and Portals. And what I'd like to do is pass this off to Tiffany to walk you through some more information.
Great,
Tiffany?
thanks, Lisa. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, we're right on time. So I'd like to introduce everyone to Jamie. We thought it would be a little bit more fun to kind of make it real, is walk you through a scenario that's very much a fiction scenario, but it's based on our experiences with helping businesses navigate port procurement. So we're going to pretend that Jamie has a Clarity Glass and Glazing. She opened that in 2016. She owns 100% of the firm, and for the last 7 years, her business has been mostly residential with a little bit of commercial work. She reached out to the Apex Advisor in 2020 to learn more about public works and how to sell to local governments. And then in 2022, she took that information to really kind of dive in, like, okay, I think I'm ready. I understand there's a learning curve. Let's dive into this market research to find out who is buying glass and glazing and how are they buying it. So today we're going to share Jamie's journey. Now you have a little bit of background about Jamie. Let's see how she did throughout. If you could do the next slide there, Lisa. So at SeaTac Airport, we've been one of those 50 million people or whatever Mian said that goes through the airport. We've all seen the beautiful glass that is throughout the port operations there at the airport terminal. There's a lot of other glass areas too that need some sort of glaze or tint to them to reduce the energy efficiency or increase energy efficiency within the building. Next slide. So Jamie got into the Port Connect and she got an email notification saying there is a contract for what you do. So she printed out, she's like Lisa and likes to print things out, and she read the solicitation within the first couple of days, which was the advice of her Apex Accelerator advisor was like, get in there, let's take a close look at this so that we can really better understand it early on. She went ahead and registered for the pre-proposal meeting, and she used some tools that are going to be at your disposal as well. She used a solicitation review checklist. She used the Q&A period to put in some pre-proposal questions that she had about the scope of work. And she calculated up her costs and really explored all the assumptions she was making into how much it was going to cost her to do the work. Next slide. So this is what it looked like when she logged into Vendor Connect. SW, does anyone know what that means? Go ahead and type it into the chat and I'll see if you're right. SW0321373, glass and glazing on call. So we can kind of assume, because it says SW in the front, that the buying threshold at that time was under 300,000. Which means is another clue as to what SW stands for. So Stephanie got it. Gold star to Stephanie. Small works. That's correct. SW means small works. So we know it's a small works job. And it's a little bit complicated. It's like, boy, it's not even that big of a job, under 300,000, but look, there's 5 tabs. So the first tab is going to have the overview. The second one's going to have all the documents that are going to be necessary. The third tab has the plan holders list, upcoming events, and then the event documents. And so we recommended our friend Jamie here look at all the tabs here and understand and really spend some time understanding what the requirements are here today. Next slide. So when she opened up those 5 tabs, she honed right in on the second tab, which is the documents. So there she found the bid package, a project manual, which was an interesting read because it had some hidden requirements in there that maybe she's not used to doing on the residential side or the commercial side. So she also learned about the average use of the contract, which might help her assess her own capacity to be able to perform well. And then the bid abstract was in there as well. So we recommended Jamie go ahead and click on that third tab for the plan holder list and become a plan holder. And that's a tool that the port uses to make sure that she's getting all the updates that she needs on this. If there was an amendment or maybe the question and answers that were submitted got posted for everyone to view. She opened up that 4th tab for the pre-bid meeting and saw that it was not mandatory. And she asked her Apex advisor if she should go. And we said, absolutely. The more business intelligence and market research that a firm can gather on a procurement, the better. It's an intelligence gathering effort to attend a pre-bid meeting. So if the agency's offering one, by all means go, even if it's not mandatory. Next slide, please. So we also recommended Jamie's first skill set is not computer work, it's glass and glazing. So we wanted to make sure she was set up and organized. So we recommended she create a solicitation file on her computer with naming conventions that made sense to her, so that she could download and save all those documents in an area where she can go back and find them. And so she put them all in there based on the small works number and what it was that she was saving, so that she could go back and just get organized. So she's now all organized. She has everything she needs. Go ahead and do the next slide here. And she set herself up as a plan holder. This is what that screenshot looks like. So this is an actual screenshot of the actual opportunity. So you won't actually see Jamie on here because she's not real, but we do have all the plan holders here that theoretically signed up to be a plan holder. And we see a clear winner there with a bid amount of $318,000. That's available now on the Port website. You can go up there and see that. Next slide. So this is the event tab where it said, it's a little blurry right there, but was it mandatory? No, but we highly recommended she go. And the reason that we recommended she go is that she can be seen by the agency itself and by the primes that might be bidding this. She can learn more about the opportunity, of course, from the port itself. She has the possibility to meet other future partners. So yeah, her competition is going to be there, but also maybe a potential partner that could has limited capacity, that maybe they can partner up and go after something bigger than what they could go on by themselves. And at the end of the day, just knowing who your competition is as a business owner might be helpful to you. So through this pre-bid meeting, she also learned a little bit more about the language of government contracting and was better prepared to bid and to explore future opportunities with a government agency. So at the pre-bid meeting, they did publish an agenda, and this is really typical of what you could expect to see. Shelley Williams there, the contract administrator, did some nice introductions. They gave a nice disclaimer about things said at the event. The contracting administrator really has to be quite formal they have to choose their words carefully. They can't, lead people astray, because that wouldn't be fair to people who weren't there. And so you'll kind of feel that formality when you go to an official pre-bid meeting, but there's still great value in attending. They go over the project, they go over the safety requirements, and security access is something they add in on a port project, something that you wouldn't normally have if you were doing glass and glazing for a transit agency or something like that. And then the procurement schedule. So you can kind of get a sense as a business owner of what you have to submit and when you can find out if you win or not. And I think it's all covered there. Oh, one thing I did want to mention that was nice of Shelley Williams, the contract administrator, to do is they added in here the payment bonds performance and payment bonds that are required for this. And they also talked briefly about insurance requirements. And sometimes for small businesses, those two can be big barriers to getting into public procurement. So it's nice to know about those right up front. She called them out, and she, kind of unapologetically said, here they are, deal with them, and look forward to having your bid come in. Next slide. So it's in terms of what Jamie heard, she also found out at the pre-bid meeting that she might not have found out so efficiently on her own, was that there was a previous contract for glass and glazing, and that the previous contract was very similar to this one. It was a small works on-call contract. And she got the previous solicitation number, and she found out who the incumbent was. So the incumbent there is a small business enterprise. And so now she knows she can probably assume that especially if they were at the pre-bid meeting, that they're going to be bidding again. Next slide. So if all that wasn't really transparent at the pre-bid meeting or on the port's website, another option that Jamie could have gotten that information was through a public disclosure request. So remember, anytime you're dealing with a public agency, regardless of which agency it is, it is public information who that agency is doing business with and how much they paid the last time they bought that thing. So that's kind of what's fun about the public sector contracting. Did someone say fun maybe early on in what government contracting is? I would add transparent, because in the commercial side, you'd never get that kind of detail. But we could easily reverse engineer how the government buys things. So we could pull up the original glass and glazing solicitation from a year ago and find out how much the incumbent bid and reverse engineer their bid and kind of get a sense of what an appropriate pricing model might be for going forward. So anyway, if you can't find it early on and it's not available with a public agency, you can always do a public disclosure request process. The federal government calls it a Freedom of Information Act request, but the port makes it super simple on their website to go ahead and do that. Next slide. But before you do, you want to make sure that nobody else already did that for you, and that because once somebody does it, one person does it, the port's like, fine, here, and throws it on their website so that they don't have to process the same request twice, which is really great for transparency. So yay, port, for being as transparent as possible. So you can do a search there in the public records request to see if somebody else has already done that homework for you, so you don't have to repeat it. Next slide.
So something that has changed since the first quarter of this year is the level in which, or the threshold to be a small work job. In our slides earlier, we said it was 300 because when we did glass and glazing, the limit was 300 and under is small works. July of this year, it was bumped up to 350. So understanding the buying thresholds of categories is pretty important. When I do sessions, I always say to folks, know the thresholds of buying, how they're buying it will help you, as well as knowing if it's under a particular dollar amount, maybe they just need to know you. They need to know you exist. They can directly go to you. They do not go out to compete. And you go, what? You mean they just need to know me and understand what my services are and my capabilities? They can find me and say, I'd like to work with you. The answer is yes, that happens. That happens in all government agencies have a direct buy, but you have to understand at what threshold is a direct buy. So it goes back to how important is it to be networking and how important it is to have a capability statement. There are some strategies that if you didn't know that, here's an opportunity now. And also Tiffany had mentioned knowing your primes and working with primes, how important that is. And we do coach and help you find primes and know how to approach primes. Primes have outreach. They do a lot of outreach because they want to know who's out there in the industry and connecting. And being prepared for those connections is really important. So I'm going down a rabbit hole that I'm going to pull myself out of and still talk about public works. So here we go. Construction. Public works is now 350. Major is above 350, and then alternate public works. And that is defined in the RCW 39.04. Public work means all work, construction, alteration, repair, or improvement of any or other than ordinary maintenance executed by the cost of the state or a municipality. The public works includes and offsite prefabrication items, and that's important. If you're going to hang out with us and we're going to go through prevailing wage in session 3, I want you to understand it's including maintenance and offsite prefabrication items when performed by contract shall comply to 39.12 of the RCW. Now, the piece that I like about the slide is how are public works evaluated? Well, public works is a competitive process. When it is a competitive process, it is awarded to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. And you go, what's that all about? Well, if you're new to this game, responsible and responsive are necessary. And we're going to talk about what does it mean to be responsible. So here it is. When you're working on a public works job like Jamie is, the glass and glazing, there are some minimum requirements for Washington State. So you must do at least the minimum and to be considered responsible. And here's the list. And we are definitely going to dive into these highlighted ones: the prevailing wage, how to file intents and affidavits. There is an L&I training that is required. It's, I believe it's a 3-hour session, and you do have a waiver if you've been doing it more than 3 years, or if you worked and completed 3 or more public works projects. And then another piece is certified payroll. So when you are looking at public works, it's administratively heavy. Understand what you're getting into and understand all that it is taking. One of the strategies too is talk to some folks that have been doing it. Understand really, what does it take in a week? How much time are you spending? What are your jobs? How much payroll? How much understanding of the PLAs? And there's a lot of nuances with public works. And this link here gives you the link into L&I. And I gave a whole entire slide because I think it's so important to understand this contractor training piece. There is avoidance of the L&I portal because it's massive. But I do encourage you all to visit L&I and then look at the training and workshops that are available to you. They do a fabulous job. They are right now doing contractor industry days as well. They're doing a roadshow throughout our state. So it will share on that website how you get your training, as well as learn more about L&I. So responsible, we talked about the minimum. Actually, I'm going to go back. Let me go back one. Oops, I'm going forward. Here we go. When I had mentioned responsible, these are the things to be responsible, but there also are other requirements the agency may have. So it will be listed in attention to bidders. What are the requirements? May that be being responsible or responsive. So a responsive bid means, or the proposal, that you are complying with all materials that they are calling out in that solicitation. And when I say calling out, one of the first aha moments I had when I was looking at a solicitation is all the instruction. It is full of instruction. It's an instruction manual. It's when's the pre-bid? When is it due? How do you want to receive your responses? How do I, do I have to wet sign it, meaning an ink instead of a digital? Do I have to walk it into the facility? Or with COVID, that went away, or they made special conditions. So bidding on time, filling out the bid sheets. And the reason this is green seems silly, but if you do not sign your bid form, it is non-responsive. That's weird, really. And so many times when I ask an agency, what are the things you would like us to make sure our contractors are doing when they're bidding? And almost always they say the things that pain us the most is that they are not signing their bid form, which makes them non-responsive. So it's very important to have a second set of eyes to help you with that, or just to make sure that you are responsive. Apex Accelerator folks are going to be able to be your second set of eyes if you enroll with help there. Insurance, if you're not compliant with insurance, that can make you non-responsive. Bonds, like Tiffany had said, Shelley, the contracting officer, she clearly said in her pre-proposal, there's going to be a performance and payment bond. So you know that you have to research what does that mean and understand if you're bondable. In this particular solicitation for the airport, you have to have badging, and that is a requirement. It clearly states it in the solicitation. And with Public Works, there are a lot of safety measures that need to be put in place. So I would say the first time you're doing a Public Works solicitation review, there's going to be a lot of things that you're putting down on your sheet that Tiffany's going to bring you through that say, oh, wow, I didn't realize I had to do this, or the requirement, wow, That's going to take a little bit of time. Maybe I'm not ready for it. So we're going to walk you through how to extract some information from solicitations. One thing I want to say, and Tiffany will say the same thing, not one solicitation is the same as the next. So it's not like it's generic. It is, every one of them is specific to the job, and there may be similarities like that minimum requirement. They're minimum requirements and they must be, but there may be additional requirements. So be really careful on extracting what is needed to be responsible and responsive. All right, next. These are some key components that you're going to look for. Perhaps it's how you're being evaluated. And in public works, it is the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. So it's price when it's a competitive solicitation. A term that I often want people to look at is, what's the statement of work? What is the SOW? Payment terms, you really want to know, when are you going to get paid? What are the conditions to then get paid? So what do I have to do? And with public works, you must be in compliance with your intent, your certified payroll, and your affidavit. So there's a process in addition to, like, Jamie's working in residential and commercial. Now she's jumping into this whole public works thing. What's this all about? So understand the importance of prevailing wage and all that it is. Pre-proposal meeting date, you definitely want to follow up and be there. Terms and conditions, there's a lot of stuff hidden in terms and conditions. Be cautious of that and make sure that you're opening any embedded pieces. And then we're going to provide you with 3 tips or tools. They're more tools than tips. And Tiffany's going to run us through these. So they are the solicitation review checklist, where you're recording all the key components, requirements of cost implications. So in this glass and glazing, there was badging, and there were some other things that are going to be costs that I need to be aware of. And then even if you've never done it, what's the process? It clearly notes in this solicitation how to do badging. It is so well spelled out that if you have questions, you can surely ask, but it does step you through. Very well written. And then just getting ready for that pre-proposal. That's really important to have your questions ready to ask. So this is our tip. This tip right here, typically a solicitation is a PDF, and it will come through, it will be a file that you can use Control F, which is control find. And if you type in words like required, and I did, in the solicitation, there were 280 required in the terms of this whole entire 244 pages. So you're going to read through those. Must, I didn't record, but there were quite a few, and shall. So if you start there, this may give you an idea, this is too much for me right now, or maybe you take the approach of, I want to learn this, so I'm going to start with this one. So just being able to go through the process, may you go for it or not, you're going through it to have that learning perspective, I think is a pretty important exercise. Not everybody's going to be able to take the time to do that, but it does increase your success of the next time you go over another solicitation. Getting familiar with this language is important. And I did a snapshot because performance and payment bonds, it's required. But down here it says no bid bond required. And I don't know anything about bonding, right? Jamie's new to this. And she goes, that's interesting. Well, we're going to have a whole class on that. The 4th session is going to be about bonding. So stick with us if you are going to do public works. I believe that this is going to answer some of your questions, and it is a hurdle. It is something that people struggle with, and we want you to have clarity. So session 4 is going to talk about just bonding and insurance. What are the differences? All right. I'm going to pass this over to Tiffany because she's got some tools to share with you.
Yes.
There you go.
On the solicitation review checklist. This is a tool that is in your email. sent by Lisa Lagerstrom. And it's a tool that we recommend everyone use because solicitations aren't really written for your entertainment. They can be they're legal documents. They're rather dry, and they don't read front to back in a very cohesive manner. That's not how they're designed. And that's not a slam on contracting officers who write these solicitations. It's just the nature of the beast. And so sitting down with the solicitation and having a review checklist will allow you to really make the most of that time. The other way to do it too is to know what is on your checklist for what information you need to extract from the solicitation and highlight. The challenge with just highlighting a document is that you might forget where you saw that. So perhaps later on, you want to go back and take a look at the badging requirements or the bonding requirements. And you're like, what page was that on? I don't know. A solicitation review checklist, you could note, oh, that was on page 34. You can go back and reread it. So, quick disclaimer, we've developed a basic checklist that is not intended to be your final version of a checklist for every need that you might have as a business owner bidding in government contracting. So we give it to you in Word so that you can make it your own. It's designed as a starting template that you can fully customize to your needs. And some of the information on there is going to be irrelevant, and other times we might be missing something. So you need to add that to your checklist. That's in your email. We recommend you open up the solicitation, you open up your checklist, and you start filling out that fillable form with references to what page you saw that on. And by the end of it, you'll not only have read the solicitation document, but you've extracted the important information that will allow you to ask better questions during the Q&A period and allow you to conduct a really good bid or no bid assessment. So let's move on to the next tool, which is those pre-proposal questions during that Q&A period. You want to make sure that all your questions get answered ahead of time and that you don't ask questions that are clearly in the solicitation. That makes it look like you're not really on your game. And you can use this template as a guide when asking a question. The other thing to note about pre-proposal questions is that they become public information. And so the contracting officer will collect all of those questions and create the answers to them in a written response, and then post the questions and the answers on the website for the world to see. So, it can be somewhat tricky to ask a question that doesn't tip your competitor to some sort of fancy way you have of doing business. And so we'd be happy to brainstorm with you kind of the appropriate way to ask questions if that is a concern of yours. This tool was also handed out prior to. You're welcome to use it. Next tool is the cost considerations. So we want to use this tool to gather all of our costs, which are not direct costs. The direct costs are kind of easy. Jamie, when she goes to do her glass and glazing quote, she knows how much the labor is, right? Because she's taken the L&I training on prevailing wage. She knows how much the film is. I don't know anything about glass and glazing, so I'm sure there's other components of it that are direct to the job itself. But she also might have some indirect costs that are contributing to her cost of doing business. So specifically for the port, that cost of getting the badges on all of your employees and going through that process is not only a time cost potentially, but I think there's like a real cost to it. It might not be much, but all those not by me much costs tend to add up. And as a small business, you want to have a full picture of what your cost of doing business is at Port Property. This one also had, Jamie had to hone in when she was doing the glass and glazing bid on the hot work powder actuated fasteners permit, which I'm sure you all have, but anyway, that was a requirement of this job. And so there's a cost to that, right? And so when you think about all of the terms and conditions in that solicitation that are going to influence your cost, you want to start making note of those because pretty soon the solicitation will be due and you'll have to submit an actual quote. And that quote can be binding. And so we want to make sure that you're not underbidding and losing your shirt, but performing on these jobs. Next. So once you've had a chance to read the solicitation and understand the scope and get your questions answered, we recommend that you conduct a bid, no bid analysis. You as a small business do not have the luxury of bidding on everything that comes your way. It could be very exciting, like Jamie was like jumping up and down. You can picture her saying, I do glass and glazing and the port is buying glass and glazing. This is so exciting. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she should bid that at this time based on her company's goals, her proficiencies, her likelihood of success, and everything else going on in her life. So conducting an analysis that's not based on emotions or reactions forces business owners to slow down, read the solicitation, fully understand the opportunity without making too many assumptions about that. And it allows the business to focus on why they want the work and how they'll bid, and crafting that strategy for winning. And that's what we want to see as business owners, increasing that win rate so that you bid on projects that you have a high likelihood of success because you fully understand how you fit into the competitive nature of that particular solicitation. We do have a solicitation review class that was recorded. I believe this is Terry Holmberg's, if I'm not mistaken. He's an amazing member of the Apex Accelerator team, and we've recorded his class for your viewing pleasure, and that link will be live in the slide deck that you received. Next slide. So this is kind of one of my favorite parts of this assessment, this bid, no bid, is the can we bid, right? There's two main questions. The first question is, can you bid? Can Jamie bid on this? So can Jamie meet the technical requirements of doing the glass and glazing on the port property? Does she understand the risks associated with that particular opportunity? And on and on. Can we be profitable? Do I have the cash flow to perform? So that's a big one. And we're going to have a class later on financial considerations where we really hone in on the cash considerations that you'll need to be successful in doing business with public sector customers. They don't prepay. Spoiler alert. So you have to be able to finance the at least portions of the job before you can invoice and before the port will pay you. And that's true across the board with every government contract out there. Let's go ahead and do the next slide. Yeah, after you answer the question of can you bid, do you want to bid? So is the opportunity in your core book of business? Will there be leverageability? Like, do other agencies piggyback off this contract? Will it lead to other work? Will it help me build a relationship with that prime or with the agency? So anyway, you can go on, and you can, again, customize this to your needs. We want you to ask yourself questions and do that ranking, that 5 to 1, make that meaningful to you. It could be that a 5 is, this program is core to our business, is exactly what we do, a 5. Or it could be like, it's a little bit of a stretch of something we've never done, but it's in our strategic plan moving forward. We really want to do it in the future. Then you might rank it a 3 or a 4. So, use it and make it meaningful to you. The other tip on the bid, no bid assessment, if you have a larger firm with multiple employees, you might want to put on different hats based on your business. So the business development person in the business whose job it is to go out and get more work might always want to bid everything, right? Get that commission, get that work in the door. Whereas the person actually doing the work, or the controller or the cash flow manager might be like, whoa, I don't know that we can handle that job at this time. And so kind of putting on different hats based on risk level of winning and performing might be a fun exercise to do in your business as well. Next slide. So after conducting that bid or no bid assessment, I do see a chat in there about how long a client should spend evaluating. And thank you, Chuck, for that. Chuck's also with an Apex Accelerator to our north here. He's based out of Bellingham. It's nice to have him on the line. I'm glad. Don't spend too much time on that, because you gotta fish or cut bait, if I could use an analogy that my dad would appreciate. You really don't have a whole lot of time. Some of these solicitations come out and you have 2 weeks to respond. You don't have time to really think too long about these questions, which is why we want you to read the solicitation the minute it comes out, right? Make that determination, bid or no bid, early, so you can get your strategy in place to be able to bid and win. So speaking of strategy, strategy one would be to pursue the opportunity and learn as much as you can about the process. So let's just do it, right? That's just like, let's try it. And either win or lose, you're going to get a debrief potentially if it's a larger job, and learn more about areas that your bid could improve. The second strategy is to contact the other plan holders and see if they need any subcontractors. Like maybe cash flow was a major concern. Maybe you didn't have the staffing or something like that, and you could only do a portion of the historic work that they've talked about. So you want to try and see if anyone else is in the same boat as you and put together a team to respond. So the third strategy, you know, and this is, we're talking to Jamie here, and she's just not sure if she's ready at this time. She might prepare for this next time it comes up for bid. This is an annual opportunity. So she's going to use this experience to gather all the data about this opportunity, knowing that, you know, 10 months from now, she might have, it'll come out again and she'll have another opportunity to potentially bid, assuming the port still needs glass and glazing work. No guarantees on that one though. So you can't always predict what the government's going to have the funding for or the capacity to bid out. Next. So, is this your slide or my slide, Lisa?
I believe it's your
Oh,
slide.
still mine? Oh, yay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when you're preparing to bid, you want to make sure that you build your team, right? So that could include other members of your business. It could include your spouse, or it could include the Apex Accelerator that makes sure that you extract all the requirements from the bid and that you're ready and you fully understand it. That your response is responsive, which is the legal term, as Lisa described, that the government uses to evaluate you. And that you write to win. You know, some of these smaller jobs are going to be just a simple quote that you submit with some other paperwork. Other times you might have to be writing a little bit more, and you want that language tight and descriptive and not too fluffy. And your Apex Accelerator advisor could also help you refine that. If you're unsure on cost, one of the reasons we've partnered with the Small Business Development Center to talk about cost considerations, and one reason that the Port has partnered with Business Impact Northwest, is that they have experts on their team who can help you develop that cash flow projection. They can help you determine all of your direct and indirect costs that are going to be used on projects, and help you get access to that capital that you might need to perform, whether it be a line of credit or a loan or something like that. So use your resources. There's a lot of us out there. We're all government funded, and we're all available to you at no cost to your business. One other resource, if you're really into the indirect overhead type information, you could get a really great solid primer on those concepts by watching this YouTube video that one of our Apex Accelerator advisors did on that. It is geared towards federal, but it's the same concept, right? You have your indirect and your direct costs, which equate to your overhead, and how you build that into a bid that's for construction. So let's go back to Jamie. You remember her pretty little picture. She didn't fit on this slide because we have too many words, but you'll see her in the next slide. So you can picture her little hard hat and her little bob cut. She performed an assessment of her strengths and weaknesses. And she knew it would take time to navigate the government contracting process and learn the language. Then she conducted market research, right? She went on a search to find out who was buying what she was selling, right? What public entities have windows? Who has glass that needs glazed? And once she found out who that was, she found out how they were buying that and how much they were paying for it and who her competition was. And that gave her a really full picture of where to position her firm to be in the right place at the right time to be able to bid and win. Then when the solicitation came out, she attended the pre-proposal meeting. She asked a lot of clarifying questions, and she decided to go after the opportunity. Woo! So we were excited for her that she was going to be bidding her first government contract. She also, at the same time, reached out to the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises, OMWBE, to better understand the certifications that they offer. And she connected with MRSC, which to better understand the small works roster for other projects outside of the Port of Seattle. And so we're excited for Jamie. She did have some aha moments along the way. She says, my first few years were all about learning the language. She said that attending networking events like the Regional Contracting Forum that's coming up later this month opened up even more opportunities for her firm. The research was necessary to narrow in her target agencies. And she was able to seek technical assistance from the team at Apex to help her be as efficient as possible in navigating government systems. And she knows it's a steep learning curve, and there's a lot more paperwork than commercial work, but she's ready for the challenge. She's going to grow her business long-term in the public sector. So I'm excited for Jamie and her future prospects. She didn't win this one, by the way. I forget who the winner was, Lisa.
Herzog,
Herzog.
a large business.
A large
and maybe
business.
Jamie could, at least introduce herself as a sub,
Yes.
perhaps. Yeah.
To Herzog. That's her next step, is going to be to go meet Herzog and see if they have any extra leftover work that would get her more used to port procurement. And she also reached out to the contract master to find out, how she could have done better in this particular opportunity. So congratulations to Jamie for sticking her neck out and giving it a shot. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I think we have quite a few more resources to do and some key takeaways. So take it away, Lisa.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. The journey with Jamie was kind of fun. And to understand, you all have your own journey. And along that journey that you're taking in government contracting, you're going to gather some resources and some friends along the way. So I want you to know that the key takeaways for today, we really wanted to talk about requirements and being responsive. There's lots of R's, and resources. So in learning the language, it does take time. Be really realistic with yourself. Don't expect to sit down, write a proposal response, have all your costs ready, and you win. Now it happens, but not very often. And whenever I say that in a class, people go, oh, I won my first. And I said, okay, great. That's awesome. But it does take time. Be realistic and use your resources. But the other one, number 2, know as much as you can about the agency you're selling to, and know your audience. It's one of those principles in life. Know your audience. Your likelihood of being more successful to work with those folks is going to increase for sure if you know what their needs are. Number 3, it's green. And the reason it's green is read the bid and the solicitation early. Ask clarifying questions. Very important. Use the tools to capture all the requirements in a bid. Being responsive. If you walk away today and know you must sign, if it requires you to sign, you better sign it. You may attest to it with a signature, and if it does not have a signature, it could be deemed as non-responsive, and you are out of the running for this competition. Double check everything before submitting your proposal and bid. Double check, double set of eyes. And then use your resources. There are small business support organizations and trade industry associations. Another thing that we're going to talk about when we talk about resources. Finding opportunities, where do you go? You go to portals. You go to the portals of the agencies, get in, be a plan holder if you're going to be in Vendor Connect, or in Webs, you want to have a profile, or in SAM, you want to be in the Dynamic Small Business Search. Well, you want to be in SAM for opportunities. Networking, huge, big deal. Network so people know you. If there's direct buys, they don't know you, they can't buy from you. That's a big tip. The Port does a fabulous job with networking opportunities. I've been to 4 of them in the last 4 months. I've met people that I've never met before. And I again, very impressed by how many opportunities there are for the Port. And then specific training topics. PTech has a calendar we're going to show you. Just in September, I think we have 32 opportunities for education. We do also create education where it's a series. Like this is a 5-part series with a celebration at the end. We call it a resource fair. It is a way that you take what you've learned and meet some folks to support you and be successful throughout. The goal here is to understand how to work with the port and secure your first contract with the port. So that is our efforts that we're putting forth to make sure you're successful. So those are the key takeaways. We're going to spend just a moment or two on resources. And somebody in the chat, and it is Mark, he said, I have really benefited from the bid match. And this is a tool that Apex offers. It is in our list, and we are folks that are going to provide one-on-one advising for government contracting. We help with market research. I think Tiffany and I both have said market research is important. Find out who's buying what you sell. One of our first steps. Creating a strategy to sell to government agencies, may that be local, state, or federal, we help you hone in on that. The word capability statement has come up. We've talked about, we help with development of that. The question was asked, do you have to have separate capability statements? It's a great way to communicate your capabilities to agencies. We believe that you should cater it to the agency's needs. So be flexible with that. And Tiffany had mentioned, if you're having a designer make it nice and pretty and you can't edit it, it's going to cost you money to then make it nice and pretty again. So use a tool that is editable for you, and we have sources for that. Mark this bullet point, find opportunities using bid match. Within PTAC or Apex accelerators, we have only one service that you pay for, and it is called bid match. It is $165 once a year, and it is a way in which we scrub 1,500 different databases, and you will get notifications if your profile, like keywords, all the things that you put in that says, you know, I do the specific product or service, keywords. If there's a match, you're going to get an email that says, here's an opportunity you might want to go look at. And Mark has said it's worked for him. Tiffany has put it in there for 1,400 websites. And that is something that we encourage you all to play with. It's a very inexpensive way to start using a bid match service. And you have 30 days free. Apex accelerators help you create your profile, and then we test it out for 30 days. A lot of times you're going to have a one-on-one with your advisor a week after and say, I'm getting a bunch, too many, not enough. So we adjust. Solicitation reviews and preparation for bid. We spend a lot of time as Apex accelerators looking at solicitations with firms to understand how to pull out the requirements and make sure that they are responsive at the end. In bid review, we do bid review there too. Educational workshops, we will show you a screen. Like I'd mentioned in September, there's about 32 opportunities. We do classes and sessions. We also partner with Govology. That's a training course online, and they have a great library of over 100 sessions, and you can pick those as you need. And we do have recommended course lists that we would chronologically say, this is the best one to start here. After we've had a one-on-one, we might prescribe, you know, to watch a few. Networking opportunities, we have some very large events. Alliance Northwest is going to happen in 2024, March 14th. That is a great place to meet federal, local, state procurement buyers and get some great information, have a fun day of it. And that will be down in Tacoma, Greater Tacoma Convention Center. And then subcontracting. We have notices posted on our websites, which is great information. What I recognized when I started, the government marketplace is a massive amount. I mean, it's huge. And who do you trust, or who do you want to listen to first? Pick an agency, pick an organization that you want to follow and see how you navigate through it, but be very, very patient with yourself as well. It isn't going to be a language you pick up right away. I'm going to give you a quick snapshot. This is also on our website. We are a nationwide organization, and we have 17 counselors serving the whole state of Washington. And we also have partners. Our resource partner, Business Impact Northwest, they are going to help you with capital. And they also are leading the cohort, which is the session, if you call it Advanced PortGen 301, that is the cohort that is happening this week, I believe, Emily, right? Yep, okay. So they're a great resource. MRSC, Municipal Research and Service Center. They have a roster, and it's the only directory that connects businesses over 670 public agencies, and that is counties, cities, ports. They have a great amount of roster information. Small Works is one of them. There's a construction, and then there's consultants, A&E and design firms, and then we have vendor, which is goods and services. This is our hyperlink to them. I'd encourage you to just check it out and understand who they are. And then OMWBE, which is Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprise. They are the state agency for small business certifications. And there are a number of certifications you can go after. The agency, if your agency that you're selling to has business goals, you need to learn more specific about those certifications from the agency. And I encourage you, if you are going to go after one of these certifications for your small business, to watch this YouTube here. It does a pretty good job explaining what certification is and how it is used. And reach out to an Apex Accelerator for technical assistance. We help in getting folks prepared to get into their portals. They also have a newsletter. I love this newsletter. This tells you the folks that are newly certified firms. You can download it. They make it very easy for you. So again, when you get into a portal, understand all the bells and whistles that they have to offer. It's pretty important. Next steps. So next steps for you all. Here it is. We're already almost done with this. We mentioned one of the expectations is to find your NAICS. Here's where you would go find your NAICS. You use keywords to find your NAICS to hone in on it. And then if you are interested in connecting with Apex Accelerator, this is the link to show our locations. If you are not registered for any of the other sessions, I would encourage you to, there's a slide in here that has the hyperlinks. You can use that, or you can go out to our calendar, which I'm going to show you. And then review the hyperlinks in the diversity of contracting page in Vendor Connect. Understand what are all the things at the port that will support your business. The last one is, if you want to, you don't have to do any of these. Well, I'd love you to do number one, for sure, to know your NAICS, maybe 2 and 3 and 4. Industry associations. I was really amazed how many associations are out there, and there's a subcontracting association. There is a concrete association. There's an office supply association. It's a variety of associations. Their training and networking is something that will support you in growth and helping you connect and network. And ask, as you go to a networking event, ask questions to understand what other resources they can be for you. So with that being said, I would love to explain what does next week look like for you. If you are signed up and want to learn about business development, the topics are going to be how to get noticed by agencies and primes, how to create a strong Vendor Connect profile, and how to communicate and promote your firm's value. Develop relationships, understand the requirements of a qualification-based solicitation. So we talked today about lowest bid is Public Works. And next week, we're going to talk about service agreements, which is under there's an architect and engineering that we will evaluate, and it is based on a statement of qualifications. And if you pass through and are accepted based on your qualifications, then you will go through an interview. So a different way of being evaluated for a different way of purchasing. So I want you to understand this is going to be an overview of how to be strong with your profile and understanding then what is a qualification-based solicitation look like and how to prepare for an interview for any consultants that are on the line tonight. This is the roll-up of all things Advanced PortGen with the links that get you to registration. And I am someone at Apex that is dedicated to training. And if you have any questions after today, I definitely want you to give me an email or a call. Either one works. And we are done.